fuel, give me fire, give me that which I desire. All right, welcome back to Wind Tunnel TV, and tonight we've got the Elite Championship Racing League here and their Cup Series, the big finale where a champion will be crowned here live from Phoenix as we're on our countdown to green. I'm Dean Doucette in the booth with me, Mr. Brad Patterson. Brad, small field, but our main competitors, our four guys, are here tonight. They are locked in and ready to go. Let's get a look in on our race info for this evening. You can see here Phoenix Raceway. You got the track position, always huge here at a track like this. Pitting, always key, especially in a championship race. We talk about it every week. Guys who get on and off pit road first, we could crown a champion just on their pit stop alone. And aggression. I usually talk about patience, Brad, but tonight we're going to talk about aggression.
Yeah, I mean, aggression is going to be one of those things that everybody has to be mindful for. I mean, granted, we do have a small field, but it is all out on the line right now. The difference between winning and losing the championship could be a little bump, could be a little nudge. You never know.
Exactly, there very well could be. I've been encouraging it around the garage, so we'll see how that plays out. Right now, guys, looks like qualifying. Nobody willing to take a lap yet. I'm not sure what's going on out there, Brad, but these guys are really waiting the clock out on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of maybe one of those hoop links first, if you will. Who's going to go out there and make the first lap?
I do believe we do have 10 minutes of qualifying. So let's get in and have a look at our competitors. Now, nobody on the track. It's kind of hard to see right now. But we'll talk about them. That's Joshua L. Johnson, Joshua Soucy, James Wallace, and Jim Westerfield. That seems to me, Brad, that these guys got some real commonalities here.
Yeah, it sounds like it's the battle of the. I'm gonna bet that our champion's gonna start with the J.
Yeah, I mean you could take a 50% bet on a Joshua as well. So, there's a couple of plays there, but really when we talk about these guys, Soucy, Brad, has to be your favorite going into tonight.
Yeah, I mean, you would really think so, but I mean, it's so tough to really tell. I mean, Susie's been dominant, throughout the race, but we've also seen, or throughout the season, but we've seen races where, the setup is just completely missed, and unfortunately, when he misses big. I would think that this would be that race that everybody's going to be kind of keyed in on. We've seen, Westerfield do great things. We finally actually got some cars out on the track, and it looks like Westerfield's actually going to try to take his qualifying event. Had to shut it down early before he got to that start-finish line. A little bit of trouble there coming onto the front stretch.
Yeah, and he teleports back to the beginning, and he'll reset here, but that will cost him a lap. So he's got one shot at it, and one shot only here. I'm not sure which lap's faster, the first or the second lap, but he's only going to have one go. This could hurt Jim. See him as he comes down into what is corner number 3 now. A little tentative, as you'd expect, Brad, not willing to push it and wipe out there this time.
Yeah, absolutely. The big thing is get on the board. I mean, granted, it's only 9 drivers so far, so you're going to start in the top 10, but one thing you don't want to do is give up track position early, especially when it's down to only 4 drivers, really.
Coming down through 3 and 4 there. Nice and smooth for Jim. I mean, it's going to be a decent time. I mean, top of the board. Can I say that? Only one driver going so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think he's going to last there. Right there, 53. Matthew McCain, right behind him, being able to make that lap, make it count a little more. Uh, Looks like Westerfield's still out on the track, so maybe it didn't cost him right there that little first mistake.
Yeah, it could be where the start finish line is now that he got a second go at it. And he did improve, but not enough to get by McCann. McCann currently wiping out at the start finish line on his second lap. I don't think he improved either. Here comes Joshua Johnson, ready to set his time.
So far, these guys have been running just a tad off the fastest practice speed, which, you know, could be a matter of just a draft in the middle of practice.
Joshua Johnson loose. And he keeps it off the wall, but that's going to be a run destroyer there. I don't know if that was his second lap. I don't think it was. So I think this time he'll be in that one lap situation, Brad.
Yeah, it was interesting watching him going into that corner. I don't know if he just maybe missed his line or he's running a completely different line down at that end of the racetrack, going in a lot wider on the racetrack, a lot higher in entry, and then kind of cutting down to the center.
Yeah, there's speed there, but the speed off is the risk is what you just saw. He could get loose, and he did. And he's pushing it here, and he's loose again. Joshua Johnson going to be starting at the back here tonight. So that is not good for him, as track position is pretty big. We look in on James Wallace. James Wallace doing a nice job. He's on top right now, as Matthew George just goes first overall. So George here to play spoiler tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't count these guys that aren't necessarily biting for a championship here. You still got some fast cars out on that track and some guys that really want to end this series with a little bit of momentum and some, go out on a high note, if you will.
Definitely. I mean, this is something you can, trust me, when you're at the finale, a small field like this, these guys are pretty close, right? They're still here to race and race hard. And amongst themselves, bragging rights are big, and they want to set notice on, their improvements they made and just how they can run out here. Right now, Soucy taken to the track, the 81 machine. We'll see if he can get it done out here.
Yeah, now he was the only car that pulled a sub 26 in practice early. Let's see if he's going to be able to back it up here in qualifying.
Nice clean lap so far. Pretty good turn through 1 and 2. Down to 3 and 4 he goes. Nice and smooth there. Out to the wall. Should be a pretty good time. And yes, Soucy, by 1,000th of a second, he will take that pole.
Yeah, that's something that his competitors definitely didn't want to see. If this car gets out on a roll and is able to get a little bit of a distance, he could check out very early on in this race.
He very well could be. Speaking of checking out, let's sort of check out. Let's ask everybody to rise up, take your hats off, and enjoy the singing of the national anthem by Alicia Shipman.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming,
welcome back, or we're all set, I should say, to get rolling off here. Let's get into tonight's starting grid. Soucy on the pole tonight with a time of 26:055. Matthew George going to start on the outside of row number 1. In row 2, it's Hedrick and Wallace. McCann and Westerfield will be in row 3. Johnson, Stutzman in row 4. And Duble will start at the rear tonight.
You're going to have to be real careful. They're not going to be able to let that 81 get out there and get into clean traffic and just pull away. These guys are really going to have to do everything they can as far as his competitors to stay right there within arm shot.
They really are. I mean, it's the pace car is off here. We are going to start through this turn here, and the new start-finish line here at Phoenix Championship race is underway. Soucy down and away. Good on the second there by the 23 of Hedrick, and making a move down low. Looks like that's McCann down there trying to cut the corner.
Yeah, the longer they stay side by side behind him right there with Hedrick and the 50 of George, the better it's going to be for the 81 of Soucy. As Soucy's trying to start moving away, you see the 51 of Wallace looking all over, trying to find a spot where he can get through because he knows he's got to get to the front.
Yeah, he's looking 3 wide right now. Shoots the middle, 4 wide as they come through. Small field. They're all in the same place, though, Brad.
Yeah, he did exactly what he needed to do, though. That's going to be the 51 of James Wallace. He's going to be able to pull even right now with the 50 of Matthew George. You've got to assume that George might think about giving him a little bit of a break knowing what's going on. But, these guys, like you said, they all came here to race.
Yeah, they're all here to race. And the problem is there probably won't be any cautions. You got to really think about what you're doing. Soucy could get out here and get away early. Can't let that happen, and can't burn up your stuff fighting each other either.
No, absolutely not. Assuming there will be a stage, so we will get one reset here, if you will, as far as trying to re-rack the field. But other than that, I mean, you got to be extremely careful because a track like this, you burn up your stuff, you lose a ton of time.
You really do. So we see George in second. Joshua Johnson coming through to third. Now, we've seen speed out of the 57 machine, Brad. The big question is, can he last throughout the run?
Yeah, that's one of those things you really got to be mindful. Can he last throughout the run? Is the machine set up for that long run? Will he be able to keep it out of the fence? I mean, the way this track works, you will see drop-offs of well over 3 seconds from the start of the green flag to the time where these guys are ready to take some new tires and whatnot. So who minimizes the amount of speed that they lose ultimately is the one that's going to be able to run away with this thing.
Out front, Soucy now 1.1 seconds ahead of Matthew George. Johnson third. Wallace fourth. Westerfield now up into 5th place. So the 35, we know what he can do on a long run. Maybe he's got a little something here. I don't think he was a part of that battle early on.
No, he wasn't. He started a little bit further, took his time. Johnson was able to get by him right now, but Westerfield right now continuing. And it looks like this side of the racetrack is really where he makes his time. He's really able to get right up on the back of the 51, but coming in right here in the 3 and 4, they just run different lines. That 51's able to really hold the power on the top side, as the 35 just doesn't have enough.
You see a little wiggle, and he's peaking. He is underneath the 51, so Jim Westerfield got a nice run. They're almost touching there. I think he had to back out of that a little bit.
Yeah, he just needed a little bit more racetrack able to really carry that speed out. And right now, Westerfield under fire from the 23 of Hedrick.
Yeah, don't forget about Hedrick and others. So, Westerfield down there looking for a spot. Instead, he's going to lose one and a bunch of track position as he gets loose there off of 2.
Yeah, it looks like right now the machine on the move is actually going to be that 23 of Ryan Hedrick. Started in third, dropped back early. Kind of like the strategy looking at it now, as you see he's really starting to gain his momentum, get back up to where it is, at least to where he started. But that machine looks like he opted to to go for a little bit more of patience here and try to conserve some tires early on.
Yeah, he's looking pretty solid out here. Ryan Hedrick per crash test dummies. And he is on the move a little bit. I mean, he dropped a couple of spots early, Brad, but maybe that's the point, right? Drop a few at the start and then get them back later.
Yeah, I've been noticing he is utilizing an extremely high line, especially in the 1 and 2 down there. Down here in the bottom, he's kind of middle of the racetrack, not really trying to utilize the bottom of the racetrack, but really just as we get past the dog leg here is where he's going to run the extreme high line.
Well, do you think this is purposeful, Brad, or is he overdriving the corner and just can't get to the bottom, or is he running up here on purpose?
I think he's running up there on purpose. That time you saw Wallace move to that top side as well. He was able to fend him off a little bit better, but I think you just put less wheel into the car. You don't necessarily, I don't really know right now if it's going to save any tire or not. It seems like he's definitely able to carry more momentum though.
He seems awful committed to it, so I think he probably knows something that we don't, and I hope so for him. I'm thinking that he's looking better and better up there already, and with a small field like this, if you want that line to come in, you might as well start working it from the beginning, because you might be the only one laying down rubber up there.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, both of them are starting to catch Joshua Johnson right there in front of him, that 57. Both 51 of Wallace and Hedrick, since they've moved to the top side, especially down here on this end of the racetrack, they've really been able to close the gap.
Yeah, Johnson already starting to slide a little bit. He's up 4 spots, but that it looked like he got hit, but no contact, I don't believe. Very close there, but you can see off the corner, the 51 of James Wallace, much better. Just going to need a couple of more laps here to get some room. And maybe time that exit. So hard when you come off at the wrong exact time. And you see there a little better timing, but still falls in line.
And 57 move up the racetrack there. Could be a situation where he's trying to find a little bit of grip and speed on the top. He's seen his competitors use that top line to their advantage, or he's getting into the situation where his car just doesn't want to move that bottom. As the 51 made his way down to the dog leg, lost a lot of time. So 57, Joshua Johnson found something up there in 1 and 2 on that top side.
Yeah, I'm not sure Wallace went down there on purpose, got awful loose out of 4 and decided to just roll with that looseness down into and cut the course there. So interesting adjustment by him, but now Westerfield moving back up underneath Hendrick as everybody continues to shuffle up all along. Soucy and George are walking away, Soucy in particular, with about a 1.5 second lead.
Yeah, it just shows you, though, this huge battle right here. We got basically 6 cars nose to tail. Every position still matters. I mean, Soucy's out front, about a 1.2 second lead, just like you said. But we've seen it in the past. He is not unfallible. We've seen, mental errors, pit road errors that have taken him out of the race, or at least put him to the rear of the field. So that's where these battles right here are going to be so important.
Well, something we haven't talked about now, we're still going to have a stage here. Now, the stage obviously doesn't matter as far as points go or winning a championship goes, but is there any strategy there, Brad? Is there some way that you can outthink or outmaneuver someone, as we'll have the stage at the completion of lap 78?
I'm not sure about the stage. I mean, the problem with it is I do not believe any of these cars can make the lap 78. So we're going to have a green flag pit stop prior to that stage. And really, the execution of that is really, I believe, where they got to really make sure that they make it.
I mean, is there any way? I guess nobody could really pit before the end of the stage a second time, except for maybe Soucy, and remain on the lead lap. But I'm just trying to think of little plays that you might be able to make.
I mean, you might be able to do, say, on your green flag pit stop, maybe take 2 or something like that, depending on your tire wear. But, we've seen 3-second fall offs from the start to the end of these runs. Oh, the 51 loose. I think that he's pretty happy right now that dog leg's paved.
Yeah, that's the second time he's done that. Took that looseness off the corner and just took it right down the track. And it doesn't seem to hurt him too bad when he does that. But Still not ideal. That car doesn't like being pinned down on the bottom.
And the more he does that, the more he's just going to wear out those tires and make that situation even worse.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You start sliding them as now Westerfield looking in the middle. That door closes.
23 of Hedrick, though, continuing to just be committed to that top side. And I think he's doing really well for him. He's going to have the momentum, I think, down the straightaway here. 51's going to do everything he can to slot in behind him.
Yeah, 51 is probably getting really frustrated at this point. But, there's nothing Hedrick can do. I mean, he's running his line. He's doing an excellent job. 51 just has to find a better way off. So he needs to time it better. You see him here so close to that car. And I like that. He's going to go as high or higher, try and get a better run on him. I mean, it's very hard when a guy runs a high line, Brad. He's so fast down the straightaway. How do you get underneath him enough where you can pass him in the corner?
Yeah, I mean, that car just looks like it's so much on edge. And 1 and 2 is where he's better. The problem with it is he's better down all the way on the bottom in 1 and 2. And it seems like it's just a razor's edge margin down there for that car, and whether or not, and it could be a situation where he's just getting a little bit of the apron, and that's what's upsetting the car. I mean, but it's so close between having a very nice turn and putting that thing, left in the dog leg somewhat uncontrollable.
Oh! And Hedrick gets loose. I seen him get a hair loose a turn or two ago. That time it broke loose on him, and he's going to fall all the way back towards the back of the pack. Dublé is still way back. I'm not sure what happened to Brian Dublé, but he is way back there. Stutzman, we know about his long run ability. Brad, here he is lingering at the back. We expect him to come forward.
Yeah, he's doing exactly what he usually does. I mean, let's be honest. He's going to just hang out at the back. He's not going to do anything to jeopardize his race. He's going to get a feel for it, try to make some adjustments. And if it's like any normal race, I mean, in about 10, 12 laps when everybody's tires are worn up, he's going to start picking them off.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. Back up front, Joshua Soucy, your race leader, out here doing just an excellent job. Let's hop on board with him, actually. And just
contact. Sorry. 51 of James Wallace and 57 of Joshua Johnson. If they didn't touch, they got awful close.
All right, well, let's get a replay on that and see if we can see what happened. So here we go down through the chute here. Oh, and you're right. I don't know if there was, or it looked like the 51 of Wallace made a violent correction to stay off of him. But man, that was within a hair of contact.
Yeah, absolutely. And while we were looking at that, I mean, Matthew George started cutting in the lead of the 81 of Soucy down dramatically, down to 0.8 of a second.
Very interesting. We bring up our delta here, and we'll go up to Soucy, and we'll see here that has been slowly coming down from lap 22 to 27. He has picked up, I mean, at this point, about over 0.4. So Matthew George on the move.
George's machine looking very good. Soucy still looks a little bit better in the corners, in my opinion, especially on exit. It looks like the 50 just has a little bit of looseness on the exit, one of those things. Definitely manageable as you see him still gaining time on the 81 of Soucy. Soucy is probably, in my opinion, probably just a little bit tight and not being able to really get back to the throttle like he wants to. As you see, he's not able to get that rotation to the center.
Yeah, it looks like he's pushing up in the center a little bit. I mean, everybody kind of drifts up in the center a touch, but I agree with you. That car looking a little tight there. George much better through this section, but Soucy no slouch. I think he's not pushing that car. I think he got a little lead, and he's like, I'm going to be conservative here. I'm going to save a little tire.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're the points leader. or I shouldn't say points leader, but you're leading, on the final race, the race for the championship. You got over a 7-second lead. There is no reason to really risk it at this point in time. He could just sit back and ride behind the 50 of George the entire race and, still come home with the championship.
Right on board with George. See him driving down into one here, and he makes up a lot of time on entry and through the middle of that corner. Come down into 3. This seems to be where Soucy does okay, even though I mean, he's up the track. It's kind of odd with the line he's running, but he's getting a good run off of there.
George is still quicker. I mean, that time by, I mean, not very much quicker, but just a little bit, and that's just what it's been every lap. But Soucy, if he makes a mistake, I mean, he's going to have his hands full of George.
He is, and again, George closing in. It's so painful. I can't tell you enough about how I've driven this track. I've been in this position, and you close up, but off every corner, the car walks away from you. And it's just painful to watch lap after lap. You think you're getting closer, then you're like, no, I'm not. Yes, I am. No, I'm not. And it just continues like that for the entire race. It's very frustrating.
Yeah, it could be a situation. You saw George right there use the extreme high line, and he lost about a tenth of a second just trying to find something, trying to find that little bit more speed. As Soucy's now starting to work his way up the track a little bit. George back to the bottom. I think he was doing exactly what he needed to do. You see that fishtail just a little bit on the exit there. And I think it's exactly what you were saying, starting to get a little bit of frustration, thinking, oh, I'm not catching him quick enough. I'm faster. I should be able to make up even more time. And now he's starting to slide back the other way.
Yeah, well, I think you change your driving too, because you're just trying to find that little bit more, and that usually just hurts you that much. So, hopefully he'll get in a rhythm here and be patient. I mean, we still got, we got a yellow flag coming out on lap 78. We're going to reset this thing. So the biggest thing for everybody is just positioning, right? Matthew George is where he needs to be. I mean, he'd like to be one more up. But, the other guys, the points contenders, right? Westerfield has made his way up to 3rd place. That's going to be great for him. He's going to start right behind our race leader. I mean, if it was to end now, we still got a bunch to go here and pit stops. But he's doing a good job. Stutzman there now already up to 4th place, Brad, as he, the tire saving man, he's already moved up.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and you're going to, I think, continue to see that. The big question I have is, if you're Matthew George, I mean, you fired off pretty decent. Soucy got about a second and a half lead on you. But now you're running them back down. So, we're probably 3/4 through this fuel run. What change do you make? I mean, do you try to get even better on the long run? Do you try to dial in a little bit more short run speed? Do you think the 81's just kind of, riding out there with you? I mean, it's so difficult when you're in a situation like this where you're gaining, you're just not quite there. What type of adjustment to make?
Well, yeah, and how much is the weather changing? How much is the track changing? I mean, how much does the track normally change that you prepare for, and how much will it change with a small field like this? I don't have the answers, Brad, but these guys got to try and figure it out. So someone's going to hit on something, and I think someone's probably going to miss on something too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, right now, if you look a little bit further back in the field, Jim Westerfield back up to 3rd position. Jeremiah Stutzman, you talked about it, making his way back through the field with those tires. So Westerfield able to make the most out of that hard charge early. Then Stutzman doing the same thing he does every week, hanging back early, taking care of his equipment, taking care of the tires, charging late.
Yeah, I mean, Stutzman, he always does this. I love the way he drives. What I want to say now, though, Brad, is we're on lap 41. Stage on lap 78. Now, I think they can probably make it. And I think that's why we haven't seen pit stops. But, let's get into speculation. If they can't make it, why are they not on pit road? I say this every week in different leagues. You know how it gets on me? I'm like, clearly, if we do the math, lap 39 is the halfway mark. Why do people not like to pit? Is it just the fear of the caution?
Um, Normal field, I'd say, yeah. I mean, we're talking, short field here. I get it if you're Westerfield, if you're Joshua Johnson, but if you're Wallace, 11 seconds back from our leader, and even then, 3 seconds back from your nearest competitor as far as the championship goes, you're the one that needs to be on pit road first. The question is, and I guess it's the biggest question of the day, is can they make it that long?
Yeah, I mean, I gotta think they can do 78 laps here, but I think it's got to be right on the edge. I don't think that's an easy make. We're gonna find out. I mean, nobody pitting yet. Yeah, I mean, if they do come in, I'm gonna, I'll be angry, Brad. I'll be very.
Especially if they come in at about lap 60,
Yeah,
65.
I'm gonna be upset that nobody would roll the dice, right? You got to roll the dice. But nonetheless, I'm gonna go with the fact that I would imagine they don't have to pit here, and these guys all trying to make it, and that just makes how you're driving and how much tire you're using or saving that more important. As George continues to hang right there with Soucy. I mean, he's inching closer, and I mean literally maybe an inch every few laps.
Hey, you build the wall an inch at a time. So, I mean, he's doing everything he needs to do. He's sizing them up. The big question is how much of it is a matter of Soucy just kind of taking it easy versus running everything they can. I got to think that he's probably a little bit faster as George in all reality because he's been able to do this 2 or 3 times. The biggest thing though is as he gets closer, he completely changes the way he drives the machine, and not even from an aspect of Soucy taking away his line, just trying to get too much, and he loses 2 3 tenths of a second,
Well,
then it takes him another 10 laps to get back to it.
is that, or could that be uh, air as well, or is this just simply the fact that what you're saying? It's just his visual of seeing that guy and just trying to get to him.
Yeah, I think it's more that because he doesn't really change his line until he gets super close to him, and then he starts really searching, and then you start seeing the back end of that car just like there on exit start kind of tweaking around and just trying to get to that throttle that split second earlier because he's right there, and the old carrot is right there, but you can take yourself out as you see him. He's getting extremely loose on the exit of these corners now.
So we got some comments out there. Carl Dodson out there. I'd love to see you, Carl. Wish you were out here with us tonight. And you got Anthony Thitchener. He's the owner-operator here and giving us a thumbs up. He wants everybody to know, hey, there's $20 on the line for the highest finishing non-championship contender. So that's pretty big right there. We got something to race for. Matthew George out there looking to claim that. Stutzman, Hedrick, McCann all fighting for that prize. Dublé at the back still. I don't know why Dublé was off the pace early, but he's been hanging around at the same distance away ever since.
Could be a situation where you're sitting there and you see a battle between 6 guys right in front of you, nose to tail, fighting it out for 20 laps. You say, I'll just hang out back here. If y'all make it, we'll reset.
It could be. And of course, we got Princess Crystal out there on YouTube, and she's looking for Jim Westerfield to get her done tonight. And I got to tell you, Jim's got a great shot at it. He is in traffic a little bit early. We'll have a caution on lap 78. He'll be starting, if it was to shake out now, in third, be in a much better spot. Jim winning last week's race, I believe in a must-win situation, pulling it out of the hat. So Jim with a big win last week.
Yeah, so basically what you're saying is he's been in this must-win situation already, and he can come through under pressure.
He can, he has, and that's what I always like about Jim. He's much like Stutzman. Stutzman is actually kind of like the new Jim Westerfield, almost, to me. Jim being a little more aggressive these days, and I like that too. But he definitely is a type of personality and person who can handle pressure, and that's key in these type of races. You're not even feeling it yet, because everybody knows a caution's coming. right? After that next green flag goes, that pressure is going to ratchet up. Those who can handle it are going to do well. Those who can't, maybe not so much.
No, I'm not gonna say nobody's feeling it right now because I can tell you right now, I've been watching that 50 of Matthew George. That he is trying to pedal everything he can out of that car. He's getting extremely loose on the exit. He's able to just kind of save it, whatnot. The back end jumping all around. It just doesn't look like it comes off the corner very well, especially down these straightaways or coming into the dog leg. Back of that machine just wants to jump out from under him.
Yeah, and I mean, these cars these days, it's about the heat, right? And these guys, you get those things heated up. You start pressing a little bit and trying to dig off the corner. You're going to heat those tires up. You're going to have to cool them down a little bit. And I think that's probably what George is doing right now. As you see a nice, smooth, higher line out of him through 1 and 2 there. And I think that's exactly what he's doing, is trying to cool them down just a little bit.
Well, he's still doing pretty well. He's trying to cool down the equipment. He lost a tenth of a second that lap there. Might be exactly how you're talking. Just overheated him a little bit. Now he's gonna have to reset. You just can't seem to break that 4/10 of a second. He gets in there and it's almost like like an aero bubble, if you will, where he's just unable to really do anything. But at the same time, he tries to break that bubble and just overworks those rear tires.
Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult, and it's more about what you're talking about too. Is just that visual of that guy in front of you. You start looking at him and start missing your marks a little bit, overdriving a little bit. It's so difficult. There's so many things that go on to change the way you're driving. We look back in on Westerfield, Stutzman. Stutzman's starting to show the signs of a little bit of wear as he's a little loose coming off the corners, but fighting through it well. Hedrick, who's riding that high line early on, the 23 hanging in there in 5th. McCann, been quiet this evening, but he's got good speed here. He's right here with these guys, Brad. Don't forget about Matthew McCann. He could come up here and steal it at any time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and all of these guys still have a possibility, really. I mean, they still all have a chance at this. Right now, the biggest thing is taking care of that machine. Make sure you don't dent the fenders. Make sure you don't put it in the wall. You don't overdrive it or something like that. You can make a mistake, roll completely out of the throttle, catch it, and you still have plenty of time. The one thing that you don't have to do is try to push it right now. Is actually, I think the 11 of Dublé, he's right in the sights of the 81 of Soucy. So it's going to be interesting. Will this be able to be a situation where George can try to capitalize?
Well, it would be if he could get there, and I mean, maybe that's why he was trying to cool down his tires. I mean, if he's a thinking man, and I think George is, maybe that was what he was doing. To just cool him down a bit here, and then try and get a run right timed when they meet up with this lap car and make a move. I don't think he's close enough to have any effect at this point, though.
No, not yet. And people always ask, well, why doesn't that car just get out of the way? Well, first off, he's going to race it for everything he can. He wants to stay on the lead lap. In this particular situation, though, such a short field, I expect him to not give it a whole lot of trouble as far as letting the guys go by. But at the same time, sometimes you'll get into a situation on a track where you can't run it. They'll be like, oh, we'll go to the top side. Well, my car doesn't handle on the top side. If I try to go on the top side, I'm going to wreck. I got to go on the bottom side.
Yeah, and I personally don't like any of it. I mean, if you're going to let someone go, why don't you just slow down on the appropriate time, right, and allow the guy to go around you. You don't have to move. Don't move. Why go, like you just said, I mean, you see Dublé move way up the track. Now, I appreciate that. If you can do it, that's great. That's a very gentlemanly thing to do and a sportsmanship type of thing to do. But you're risking something, like you talked about. Your car doesn't handle well. If I'm the leader, I don't want you going up where you don't feel comfortable. Not around me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the biggest thing you could do is, depending on who you talk to, they either want you to go and get out of their way and get in the other line. But, in my opinion, you run exactly how you've been running this entire time, because obviously I'm faster. And if you continue to run right where you've ran, I should be able to get by you no problem. I've seen you several corners ahead of me. I know exactly where you're going to be. It's when you start changing and I got to guess where you are that, we can get in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, if you're on the low side and a guy going around you tries to go on the high side, you can let out a little bit, just go a little bit slower if that's what you want to do. You don't have to. But yeah, I don't agree with moving lines too much either. But nonetheless, back to the race. Soucy and George continuing to battle. We're on to about 15 to go here to stage completion. And nothing changing, Brad. If anything, Soucy walking it out just a little bit now.
Yeah, absolutely. George, got it down to about 4/10 of a second there, as Soucy was trying to work by Douglé. But, over the last 2 laps, he's lost all of that plus a little bit more, marched it back out to about a 7/10 of advantage, thus Soucy. So I think that was kind of the last gasp, if you will, on this set of tires that he was going to do. George was going to mount. I think it's pretty much the point now where he's just going to hold on to second. Now, the biggest thing that I worry about, and I don't think that's the situation here, but it can start getting creeped up into your head. I just can't get by this guy. No matter what I do, I can't get by him. And all of a sudden, you get that in your head, you can either overdrive the car, overdrive the corner, or you just give up, on yourself at that point.
I tell you, Brad, things get stuck in your head. I'll give you an example. You just said last gasp, and I thought of the Detroit Lions from today. They had their last gasp at trying to get their first victory, and it got stuck in my head, so I got to share it with everybody. Lions fan from up in the north, another frustrating day for them. A 16-16 tie today on the old football game, and boy, oh boy, do they look... They look pretty bad, to be honest with you. There's little hope for the future, but anyway, that was a little story from my NFL Sunday there, Brad.
Well, just remember, it's all in what window you're looking out of, because I'm sure that you have some Bucks fans out there right now thinking that Detroit looked a heck of a lot better than they did today.
Yeah, I mean, there's I think I would trade with the Bucks, but nonetheless, There's hope, and there's hope for everybody out here because we're 10 laps away from our stage caution. George now starting to close back in as it ebbs and flows here. He's picked up 2/10 again as we're coming down to that 10 laps. You see him a little loose off the corner there. That's going to cost him a 10th right there.
Yeah, it really will, and it's going to be very interesting, I think, what adjustments are going to be made on these race cars. Both of these guys out front, Soucy and George, doing what they need to do. They're running good, solid lap times between the two of them. George seems like he kind of ebbs and flows a little bit more than Soucy. I think Soucy is just kind of minding the gap in all reality. Hasn't really faltered, never let George under 4/10 of a second. So what does George need to just get that little bit? And is it a situation where, just aggression on the restart can change everything?
Yeah. I mean, we talked about it. That was my key to the race, aggression. Time to throw the niceties out the window. How bad do you want a championship? Go get it. I mean, we're not talking about dumping people. We're talking about putting yourself in a bit of an uncomfortable position. You're not an aggressive guy. You don't want to ruffle any feathers. I mean, it's time to ruffle some feathers. It's time to stick that car in there and go get yourself a championship. You only got one shot at it, and tonight is that shot. We look in on Hedrick, Stutson back here, 4th and 5th, and McCann in 6th. These guys continue to run. Actually, Hedrick has moved around Stutzman, so Stutzman, our long run guy, is starting to fall off as perhaps he moved forward a little too early, and Hedrick still riding the high side.
Yeah, I mean, he did exactly what he needed to do as far as the long run went with Stutzman, but also keep in mind, Stutzman had to come from the rear of the field, essentially, qualified 8th, kind of rolled in the back there, and we're right at that situation where we're basically right there. We're within the next 5 to 10 laps, we're going to be able to get that caution. So did exactly what he needs to do, and it might be a situation where that truck or that car just started getting a little bit too loose of his liking, and he's not going to throw it all the way, not yet.
My God, I think I just fell in love with the Princess Crystal, a Lions fan too. I didn't think there was another one. I love it.
Oh no. So is that good for Westerfield or bad?
I don't know. Let's say it's good for him. Right now we look in up front, and George closing in. He's got it down to 4/10 again. Can he make up that last little bit here? We're down to 4 to go, or will be 4 to go, I believe.
And does anybody try that wild strategy? Going pit road early, trying to get in, get out before that essentially that stage comes to an end. I don't think anyone's close enough, honestly, to be able to do it. Maybe if you're Matthew George, you have that possibility to do that. But I don't think anybody else on the racetrack even has the ability to come in and not get lapped with the amount of
Yeah,
gap that Soucy's put on him.
I don't know what you can do. You might be able to come in and take two, and then come back in and take two, and maybe that gets you out first. I mean, you got to think outside the box. I'm not sure what you can do here.
Well, I mean, at this point, you know, everybody is basically against Soucy. I mean, Soucy's trying to fight for the championship, absolutely. So you got his competitor, the three competitors out there, trying to win the championship. But at the same time, you got everybody else. You got Matthew George, you got Stutzman, you got McCann. All of these drivers, they're just watching them just pull away. If you're 12, 13 seconds back, you definitely got to be sitting there going, all right, what can I throw at them that can make the difference?
Well, yeah, and don't forget about this $20. We got people trying to throw stuff at Matthew George as well. So George and Soucy kind of, both in. I mean, Soucy looking for the championship, but George looking for $20. So we'll see how this goes after the completion here, as we got one more lap. I believe we're on lap 77, the 81, coming down to the start and finish line. And this will be 1 to go for our stage here.
Well, and something else, if that 50 gets right up on that back bumper, if you're Soucy and you got a 10-second lead and this for a championship, you've got to ask yourself, is the risk worth the reward?
Right. I mean, some would say, should George, it's not going to do anything to him, but George is going to say, hey, you're the one who's got to back out. But here we go. Soucy around, going to be your stage one winner here. Really consequential here. George in second. Westerfield will be third. Hedrick is going to hold on for fourth, with McCann moving up to fifth late in that run, getting around Stutzman. Joshua Johnson really fell off as the run went on. He'll have to regroup and make some adjustments, as will James Wallace. And Brian Dublé will be our lucky dog, at least, and so he'll be back on the lead lap as well.
Yeah, and don't think that, just because this first half of this race has ran this way, where you've had pretty much dominance out of Soucy and George right there. We've seen races in the past here where the first stage is just dominated and ran away, and the second stage starts, and all of a sudden it's a totally different race with different players up front, and, guys just walking away. So it'll be very interesting. Right now, the biggest thing is no mistakes.
And you see Westerfield, the thinking man's racer, he scoots right up there to the back of Matthew George. Good job of him at closing that distance. I know we're under caution, but you can still pick up a spot if you're right there with him when you get in. And George left a big gap between him and Soucy, so George not really doing what he needed to do to perhaps pass him on pit road here. On the 23 with a bad entrance into his pits, he'll have to reverse. So that's Ryan Hedrick as he gets back into his stall, and he'll be towards the back of this field. Soucy's out, George, Westerfield, everything's status quo there. McCann gonna come out in fourth place. Looks like Hedrick gonna come out fifth. Wallace. You got Dublé, your lucky dog, out on the track. Joshua Johnson, Jeremy Stutzman still on pit road. Stutzman down and away. And it looks like Johnson hung up on pit road. Now, he might have had some damage, and that's why he was off the pace.
Yeah, he did get in the wall just a little bit with that right front, a little bit towards the middle of the race there. It's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen here, though. Westerfield was in. Seems like he got a black flag, either for speeding or for passing under that yellow. It was waved off, but I'm not sure whether or not that's going to really do anything because I believe even when you wave off that black flag, you're still iRacing still sends you to the back.
No, he should. I don't believe so, Brad. He should be fine when he clears that black. So, but very interesting there. Something for discussion if Jim Westerfield gets up here and wins this thing. But that'll be for the internal chats and not for the broadcast. But this is going to be interesting now. So Westerfield is, our second championship competitor here on the board. He's got that inside line. Like, how key is it here, Brad, on this start to get out here and get by Matthew George right away?
Yeah, it's going to be key, but at the same time, I don't think he has to get by Matthew George. I think Matthew George needs to stay even with Soucy because I think, honestly, that's going to be Westerfield's best bet is if those two get racing to try to be able to take advantage or to take advantage of a slip-up because those two have been the dominant, fastest cars on the track without a doubt.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, you get up there and kind of encourage George to go racing, see if he can't, get these guys to run side by side and kind of wear their stuff out a little bit.
Now this restart's really going to shape the whole stage here, if you will. Right now, you see the 81 Soucy out front just a little bit already on the 50 of George. This is what happened last time. George wasn't able to get really even with the 81, and Soucy was able to pull away, pretty much effortlessly.
All right, here we go. We're halfway home. Soucy winning stage one, and he's down and gone. Westerfield decently following him through, but George very slow getting going on the high side. McCann, a big dip down the track. Jim Westerfield will clear Matthew George, so the 35 making his move. I thought that's exactly what he needed to do. Does he have the stuff well, he's got clean track now. McCann coming under George, so George under early fire here.
Keep in mind, this happened to George on the first start, fell back about 4 or 5 positions before that car really started getting up underneath him. I think he's got a situation where he needs just a couple of laps to get the air pressures up in that machine before it really starts gripping the track and moving forward.
And you see him trying to hang on to this spot, running that high line. McCann, he's coming in hot. He's got a short run car and he's looking to use it. I mean, I say that. He did pretty good in the long run too. McCann no slouch here, so McCann's looking to press the issue here and get that $20. So we got a championship battle between Soucy and Westerfield and a $20 battle between George and McCann.
Yeah, absolutely. These guys still going to battle it out. One thing that they do know now is they know exactly what their car is going to react, how it's going to react going through the run. I got to assume that there was some changes made. So some guys might fire off a little bit better. Some guys might take a little bit longer. And then you might have situations where guys decide, okay, I can't burn up the tires nearly as quick as I was.
Yeah, you're going to learn, right? And those adjustments are key. We'll see if anybody made any or, how well they did with them. Right now, I think so far our big winner, the 35, Jim Westerfield, currently up to second place. George has hung on to third, and he's starting to get back in his groove as that car starts to show some of its power. I mean, he might actually be in a better position than he was the first time around.
Yeah, if I remember right, the first time he lost about a second and 3/4 to Soucy. Right now he's just about 1.2 seconds back, but one thing he does have working for him right now is he's got Westerfield. If you're Soucy, you're looking in the mirror and you're seeing Jim Westerfield in that 35 starting to close in on you. You're going to push your car just a little bit more, possibly. Maybe wear out those tires a little bit more. Maybe if you're the 50 of George, you just got to stick to what you did that first run. He doesn't have to beat Soucy. He's looking for $20. He's got to beat McCann.
And McCann knows it. McCann is driving hard, man. He's going after it, and I applaud him. This is the last race. It's time to go. It's time to show what you can do. Take some risks. Get in there. Go get that cash. I mean, we like beer up in the booth, don't we, Brent?
Oh, it works. I mean, there's nothing. It's a great motivator. I mean,
So Joshua Soucy looking to be our champion. He's got about 60 laps left here, 65 laps. Westerfield hanging tough with him. 0.6 seconds back, doing an excellent job on this second run. Like I said, he won last week, so Westerfield can get it done under pressure here.
yeah, and Soucy not able to really pull away like we saw in that first run. By this point in time, he had about a second and a half lead over Matthew George, and he just slowly lost it. Where Westerfield doing, an exemplary job cutting into that lead even a little bit right there. That's exactly what you want to see if you're somebody like Matthew George or even Matthew McCann.
George is coming now. I can tell you that. George has just cut a couple of tenths off that lead. So the 50 machine, right in that sweet spot for him, he starts to move forward during this stage of the race. The problem is when he gets there, what can he do? As everything's starting to accordion up here, starting to get a little exciting here, Brad. This championship not quite done, nor is this $20.
No, absolutely not. I mean, I think one of the biggest decisions is going to have to be made probably in the next 10 laps, and it's not going to come from Matthew George. It's going to come from Jim Westerfield. You know, once George gets to him, if you're 35 at Westerfield, you got to make the conscious decision. Can I get to Soucy, or do I need to get out of the way and hope that George can get to Soucy?
Yeah, the last thing you want to do is get caught up fighting with Matthew George unless you think you really need to. You're going to be better in just a few laps. You got to hang on. So if George gets up there, it's going to be a tough decision for Jim Westerfield. Right now, though, very impressed. Westerfield hanging on to him. I mean, they're all closing, and McCann's right there with them. So these four now really closing up on each other. Joshua Johnson, now we know he had short run ability the first time around. We'll see if he made some adjustments and can continue to hang in there. He's not completely out of this thing at this point. We're going to hop on board with Matthew George and just see how things are going from his in-car. As you see, Westerfield, a great exit off the corner, pulls away a bit. Wallace is on pit road, so James Wallace watching his championship dreams go down as he hits the pits.
Yeah, a lot of damage on the right front of that machine. I got to sit there and think that he made contact with the outside.
Yeah, he jumped to the pits, so he's definitely got some damage, and it will end his championship hopes.
Great run coming into tonight. All of these guys, even the guys that aren't necessarily going to walk out of here as a champion, they've had a great season, and that's nothing to shake home at about. But right now, Westerfield, 0.3 of a second to Soucy.
Yeah, we continue to watch it from George's car, and it's just interesting to watch. Everybody kind of running a little different line, especially down in 1 and 2. We'll watch here as they enter 3.
And one thing you can definitely notice on the track, you notice it's not completely sun. We talked about it earlier about the temperature, shade in some areas, still a little bit of sun in others. You got to be starting to get a little bit of glare on the windshield, if you will, coming into 1 and 2. It's going to be who made that right adjustment and whose car, works a little bit better with these temperature swings.
Yeah, you see those rays coming across the track there. What a beautiful sight it is as George closes in on Westerfield, but Westerfield closing in on Soucy. Starting to get pretty exciting. See Westerfield a little bit loose off the corner, and you got to start thinking who's been pressing their car harder than they wanted to. This is going to be settled on the long run. I don't foresee any cautions. Even when there is a wreck, it's not really going to bring one out unless it involves one of our leaders, probably.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's who settled in, who made that adjustment, and who's playing the safe race right now is the big key. Tires is going to be everything. We saw, Soucy in that first run really able to spread it out, and build up a big lead. We're not seeing that this run at all. Not really being able to run away from anybody. Is he saving it? Is he just trying to keep the machine underneath him, or did everybody else just kind of cat and mouse that whole first round?
Well, I got to tell you, Soucy, very, very smart race car driver. He's going to do what he deems is best to win the race at the end. And he could very well be backing it down, playing a little possum here, and trying to just save that stuff for later. So he's starting to inch out a little bit on Westerfield now, but we've seen this between him and George, Brad. The ebb and flow of it. It seems like that 4/10 is like this hard barrier. You just can't crack it.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it very early on. I've only seen Westerfield get into about 3/10 one time so far. And, that might aim a little bit more to what you were talking about, just kind of saving it. They get a little bit closer, and all of a sudden, he steps it up. But right now, that 50 of George, he's all over the back of the 35 of Westerfield. So Westerfield's in that spot where we talked about it earlier. He's going to have a tough decision to make here.
Yeah, and I think he's got to let him go. Um, at this point, it's clear that you're not going to run him down. And the longer George sits on your bumper like that, he's going to take some of that air off the back end. You're going to be a little looser, and you start wearing out those rear tires. I just move over and let George go and hope to God that he gets right up there beside the 81.
It's just so difficult. I mean, you're talking about I'm 6/10 of a second off the lead. He's thinking big picture, yeah, but he's thinking his big picture. He's not thinking necessarily, whether or not George gets by him. He sat there and said, he's probably looking at it like, well, George had 50, 60 laps to get by him and couldn't make it happen. So I can sit here in second place and he can't get by me. He can't get
Well,
by him.
you're absolutely right, but I mean, and to be clear, if I was in the car, I'd probably never do what I would say up in the booth. But that said, from when you're sitting up here, you can make a little clearer decisions, I think. And I think the clear decision here for Jim is to let him go. I just believe it's better for his car. He'll be faster if he gets him off his bumper.
Yeah, I agree. I think the biggest thing though is you're going to sit there and you're going to see, we're going to keep losing time and losing time. And I think once you lose about a second, once he gets down to about a second out, is when he's going to concede. The problem is you're going to lose 3/10 of a second more before you give up.
Yeah, and it might be too much. We get down to under 50 to go now. We continue watching this battle between Westerfield and George.
And to George's credit, there's a couple of times where he's gone in and he's just had the speed in the center of the corner to where he's pulled right up to the back of the 35. And, he could have really given him a little bit of a nudge if he really wanted to upset that car, backed out of it, though, let everybody get back under it. He understands the implications right here.
He does. I mean, he that's the other problem is you don't even know how fast George is because George, other than him having McCann behind him, which is something because he's racing for $20, he's not going to really stress Jim too hard, right? So if Jim moved over and let him go, there's a chance that George is even faster than he's showing right now. I mean, taking nothing away from the 35, though. I'm talking about letting guys go and all that. This man is running in second place. He won last week. He could come in here and run down Soucy. Soucy does not look to have an overwhelming car or be dominating here tonight. George hung with him for the whole first run.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now, it looks like McCann's starting to pop. The tires in those machines probably starting to give out. Really falling off the back of these two right here over the last 2 or 3 laps.
Yeah, I think he just come out too hard on the first 3 or 4 laps, and there's something about doing that the car just does not enjoy.
Well, it's a telltale sign, though. We're going to start to see probably some of those other competitors throughout the field starting to really lose any chunks of time. So, we're seeing Westerfield losing time and whatnot, but he's not hemorrhaging time at all. And right now, it looks like he's going to finally possibly give it up there, if you will, to Matthew George in the 50, because they're going to be side by side going in.
So we got some action starting to heat up out here. So the word on the black, no big deal, just a little miscommunication amongst drivers out there. So the black was cleared, and all is good for Jim Westerfield. As it's got that Sunday afternoon, that late afternoon NASCAR feel to it, Brad, where you just sit back. We're in those parts of the race where your car's heating up, you're sweating, getting a little tired behind the wheel, and you just got to log a few more laps here before you can wake that adrenaline up and kind of go for this thing one last time.
Yeah, but this is the playoffs. This is the NASCAR playoffs, as you say. So does that mean in about 10 laps I'm going to be looking for the fight, see where it's happening? Because that's how they ended it.
Well, there's a chance that could happen. And right now, the fight, George down on the bottom, or yes, George to the bottom. He's looking to make that move on Westerfield, cutting the course there. A little loose getting back up on it. I don't think there was any gain going down there.
No, but that 50 has not been working the bottom this entire time. He's so much stronger, kind of mid to high on the track. And right there, you see, just does not have the exit speed because he's, staying so pinched off on the bottom. And this is one of those situations where, Westerfield's giving him the bottom because he knows he's faster on the top side. And he knows exactly that the top side is where Matthew George has been strongest all night tonight.
Well, while that's going on, McCann's jumped right back into this thing. And that's the thing. What has Soucy done? He's walked away. So that little fight cost them, I don't know, 3/4 of a second anyway, if not more. And it also allowed George to come back up here and get in this thing, or McCann, I should say, as George takes another look down the track.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's one of those things where you talked about it, 53 and McCann, he's back into it. It's not that he's back into it. It's that Westerfield and George, they've backed up to him.
They backed up to him, and they backed up away from Soucy. Westerfield has got to let George go. I mean, I think he should have done it 20 laps ago, but especially now, you've got to realize you're hemorrhaging time. George is faster. You get it, let him go get up there to Soucy and work on Soucy. He's working on you right now. This is counterproductive.
Yeah, and they're not, neither one of them are going to have tires when this is done. Nobody's going to be able to really mount a charge, if you will, to Soucy, because I think they've really been burning up their stuff, racing each other. With the exception of a caution, it's going to be extremely difficult to get back up there.
It really is. And Stutzman back out on the track, going to get up here and get involved in these battles, as he's probably got some nice fresh rubber on that machine.
Yeah, I think Stutzman's only got maybe about 5 laps on those tires right now, so expect to see him to be able to come right through. You see the 53 of Matthew McCann understands the situations, understands the tire difference, just kind of moves over, gets out of the way.
McCann kind of, his car got a little squirrely there, and he's kind of fallen out of that 20-car battle, at least temporarily. And you can see already, George is walking away from Westerfield. So, I mean, I really... Hopefully George can get up there and do battle, but 2 seconds is a tall ask against a guy like Soucy.
Yeah, I mean, you got to hope that if you're George that you can get there and you get up close enough to him to where, kind of like you were in that last run, to where you get the point where Soucy's just like, you know what? I'm going to win the championship. You win the race. It doesn't bother me because it doesn't matter to me.
Lap 121 of 156. Soucy looking to be your Elite Championship Racing champion here tonight.
Well, this will be a good telltale. The 50 of George, he's been caught now by the 71 of Stutzman. Stutzman, we know, has fresher tires. And this is the same situation where if you're George, find an operable time, if you will, on a straightaway, something like that, run a little bit high. You know he's going to go to the bottom. You know he's going to have tires to get around you. Let him get around you. Let him get up to Soucy and cause Soucy issues. Don't fight him.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And he's done just that. I mean, it's kind of a perfect spot to let a guy kind of get by or have a guy come by, more and more like it. Allow you to run that nice solid middle to high line through one there. Everything is okay for George, and we'll see if Stutzman can get up there and kind of influence this race a little bit as George continues to close in, now cracking under 2 seconds to our race leader.
Yeah, he lost 2/10 that lap, just dealing with Stutzman, if you will. Prior to that, was able to close it down to about 1.7 seconds. Had gained about a half a second since moving by Westerfield. Westerfield's lost about another second and a half, if you will, from George. So you got to just wonder, what this race would look like maybe 5 laps earlier. George could have gotten by.
Yeah, I mean, but give him credit, right? He didn't want to influence a championship. He didn't overdrive that machine. He didn't get aggressive with Jim, so I give a lot of credit to the 50 of Matthew George. But right now, he is the fastest car on the track, and he pushes down to 1.6 seconds from our leader, so he's coming. We've seen this before from him, though, Brad. Can he get down to that 0.4 range, and can he crack it?
Well, it's going to be interesting because Soucy's going to have to deal with Stutzman here. Right there with Stutzman, Dublay's right in front of him. So, this will be the first time Soucy's ever been in any real traffic as far as, a faster car coming from behind with the slower car in front.
Yeah, very interesting here. A little dynamic. If slower Dublé out there on the high side, Stutzman coming around, being kind of careful. It was possible they could have been in a 3 wide situation with a little better timing there, but Soucy doing a nice job. Stutzman not overworking him. And, this is something, too, that I'll ask you, Brad. Like, you're out here, you're leading, and you get a guy with fresh tires. He comes up on you. Say he's a few laps down. He doesn't really want to pass you. He's just like, oh, no, I'll just ride right here. Wouldn't you rather have him just get by you and get out of your mirror and get away from you rather than just ride on your bumper for the next 50 laps?
It depends on how long he can do it for. I mean, all reality, he's got a couple of car length gap right now, so he's probably comfortable. Once you get to the situation where you understand that guy's just going to ride, he's no intention to go by you, you just kind of ignore him. But the big problem I see right now is he's sitting in the middle. Matthew George has made up almost a second in the last few laps, a little over a half second, down to 1.1. And now he's going to be pulling back up on to the back end of Stutzman. Stutzman's going to have to decide, pull over or go up there and try to get past the 81 because, you don't want to put yourself in the middle of that championship battle. You're in the middle of it right now.
Well, I tell you, I think Stutzman's he's got the eye of Soucy as well, because I asked you the question, but I'm going to answer it, and I'm going to say, get the heck by me. That would be my answer, because not only are you in my mirror, and I'm starting to think about whether you're going to brake later than me, are you going to run me over, and beyond that, you're lifting air off my rear end. I don't want you there, right? So go by. I'll pass you back if you slow down in 10 laps. But it's an interesting dynamic. I think Soucy probably better than a guy like me at just ignoring it and riding his line.
Yeah, also a situation, though, where, we're assuming that Stutzman can get to him. I mean, that might be all he's got right here.
Yeah, that's very well true. I mean, he's a little damaged, a little sore. I'm not sure Stutzman's car is even capable of it at this point, but he's got another decision to make when George gets to him. He's right here, sandwiched in the middle. Very interesting dynamic as we're on 25 to go.
Rest of the field is still single file. Looks like Stutzman, he's going to go ahead and pull off to the side. He said, no, you're close enough. I'm just going to get out of this, doing exactly what he needs to do. I mean, he was 11 laps down, doing the classy thing there. But right now, it's down to a second. Let's see if he's going to be able to cut it down to 0.8 of a second, this lead now.
Yeah, he's coming. So he's back where he was. This is how we ended the first stage, right at this spot. So George, so far this run, better. How much better? I don't know. And has Soucy been, you know, sandbagging a little bit, saving a little bit, and waiting and for George? I don't think so. I mean, I think he's doing everything he can. George just a little bit quicker at this stage of the run.
Yeah, George is just a little bit quicker. We saw that earlier on. Unfortunately, though, George was never able to really get up there and pass him, and I think we're in a such similar situation right now. And in all reality, if you're both Soucy and George, outside of the bragging rights of saying I won the race, you both have nothing to lose here, or I shouldn't say nothing to gain. You've got everything to lose. Soucy, you really fight to keep the win under your belt, if you will. You can lose a championship possibly. George, same thing. Go up there really fighting hard to do it and get caught wreck. Well, you just lost $20. So this is really where it's that win-win situation, even if it's not necessarily the most exciting thing right now. But I think
Well,
George is going to make a run at it.
I mean, you're talking about motivations, right? But what motivates a race car driver? You race to win, right? Nobody wants. I don't care about your $20. I want my win, right? So George is going to come up here. He's going to do everything he can to win this race. I guarantee it. Soucy just the same. Soucy a little bit. Championship's a little different. He could really make the decision to let George by if George gets there. I mean, it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, he's got about a 5-second lead over right now his closest competitor in the championship. That's going to be Jim Westerfield. Westerfield currently in the third position. Then you got to drop all the way back to sixth with Joshua Johnson, 20 seconds further back than that. So Soucy, in the catbird seat, if you will, but George is there.
Yeah, George is there, but he's been here. This is the 0.4 second bubble. I don't even think there actually is a bubble, but it may be a mental bubble. It's hard to crack through this zone, and he seems to be doing a little better this time as he closes in down to like 0.33 here. So he's coming. He's going to get there. It's going to be a matter of what's going to happen when he does.
Maybe you see him go to that bottom of the track, and that is not where he's been good on the exit of these corners on the bottom. We saw it earlier on when he was trying to get by the 35 of Westerfield. It took 10, 15 laps to do it. And I just think that, as long as he's running in second, George he's just not going to have that exit speed that he needs because he's trying to go where Soucy's not. I don't know if it's a situation with the air off the front of that car, them running somewhat the same lap time or lap spots on the track, or whether or not he can't go to try to get a little bit higher, if you will.
I don't know, but he's closed in another 10th right there on the bumper now. This is so interesting. So many dynamics could happen. And this is why we were encouraging Westerfield to let him go. Just for this very reason. He could get up here and fight your race leader. Either slow him down, and dare I say that the ugly possibilities of what can happen with side-by-side racing, anything could happen. Jim, sitting back there, could be your champion.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and Stutzman's come up with them. We know Stutzman's got a little bit cleaner, fresher tires and whatnot, pulled over, let these guys race it out. But Stutzman's still right there. So, it could be a situation where either one of these guys has a little bit of a stumble, if you will. They could end up on the hood of Stutzman, by nothing wrong of Stutzman's doing at all.
Yeah, it's very, very true. Here we go. Under 2.2 seconds. So, I mean, I don't have to keep calling out the times. I mean, he's right there. He's looking underneath him already. So, clearly, George, much like Westerfield was at that time during this run, George is a little bit faster. The question is, how do you pass here? It's very difficult. And how much are you willing to put your car at risk, Soucy's championship at risk? And quite frankly, is Soucy going to put his at risk by trying to fight you at all?
Oh, he's going to fight him until he's got at least position. And so far, Matthew George hasn't had position yet. Once they're side by side and whatnot, then you might get into a situation where you got to make him make that decision. But right now, he's still not close enough. I mean, he hasn't been able to put a fender there yet.
He hasn't. I mean, If you're Soucy, though, you legitimately could just pull over. You just pull over out of this corner and let them both by. And you get yourself a championship.
Yeah, but he's been here before, and he knows that 50 hasn't been able to do it. He's gotten close, but he can always pull away from him. So
I know, but we're talking championship. You're talking about a race win, and
I'm talking about a race car driver. As you know
yes, yes, yeah. I know. I'm just saying he could. He's got a 6-second lead over Westerfield.
Oh yeah.
He can legitimately just pull over, let these two guys go, and fall off a little bit, have open track for the rest of the race. But he is a race car driver. They both are. They all are. They only know one way, and that's to go out and to win the race. It doesn't matter what's on the line to lose. Yeah, you could lose a championship. I don't care. I'm going to try and win this race. You know, that's the attitude.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the only way that you pull over and you let George win this race, he's a teammate. He helped you all season. You know, you tip your cap, maybe a little retribution, some payback, help him out, something like that. But outside of that, no. I need to win the race and crown my championship. I mean, that's how I want to go out.
Yeah, I mean, you really don't want to have the interviewer come in and ask you about how you pulled over to win your championship. So, I mean, it's just not in our DNA. Yeah, we're race car drivers. Soucy going to race for everything he's worth. I look to see what George is willing to do here. Now, I don't know if it was George or not, but we interviewed someone the one time, and they talked about how, you know, hey, it's on the championship competitors. It's not on me. I'm going out there, I'm going to take it. If they want to fight me, they're risking their championship. I'm not risking nothing. So he kind of reversed the script on me for what, you know, normally I'd say, oh, the 50's not going to get involved. He doesn't want to cause any problems. But the guy we interviewed was, no. I'm sticking it in there. You better back out. You got a lot more to lose than I do.
Yeah, on an interview, everybody sounds like that. But unfortunately, once you're in the car, I mean, come on, these guys you've dealt with for 35, 36 weeks here. You know these guys personally. You talk to them, you know, off of the racetrack and everything like that. And you know, there could be situations where, you know, next season they could be a teammate. Next season you could be in this situation, you know, and you're going to crack that throttle just a little bit. Looks like Joshua Johnson actually bringing it down to pit road here. But you're going to crack the throttle just a little bit, and you're just not going to do anything egregious, if you will.
George starting to put the power down a little bit. Looking down low on the track. He's starting to make moves. Looks like he was being patient for a bit. With 7 to go, though, he's starting to go into attack mode.
Yeah, great exit right there. 81 gets loose.
He got loose, big time, big move by the 50. He backs out a little bit there on entry, playing a little bit nice here with 7 to go, but he is starting to harass Soucy. Soucy with a critical little mistake there. Will he make another one?
Yeah, and one telling thing there is, you know, when he made that mistake, there was a possibility that he could have probably got to the outside. He chose to go to the inside, so he's thinking that he's got a better shot at passing him on the inside of the track than usually working that top line that he's been doing all race.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think you're right about that. I mean, but George has been rolling the bottom through 3 and 4 most of the race. At the top line, see here where he's running. Yeah, he's a little lower. I mean, I can't put a finger on where he's running. Perhaps I just defer to what you were saying, and I'm just not sure which is better for George at this point.
It's right there where he starts his rotation, where you see the back end not really step out, but I'm sure it's just getting up to be a little bit uneasy on him, and he's having to pinch it down on the bottom, and he just doesn't have the exit speed he needs, because, you know, down on this end of the racetrack, you know, you see him, he's pulling in, he's got a fender on the inside, but he's not going to be able to do it because of the power Soucy's putting down.
I don't know. I mean, you're right. He can't get off the corner good enough there, but he is starting to really put the pressure on. We're coming down to 3 to go for Soucy, looking for a championship. George getting that $20, but they're both out here racing for this win like there's nothing else on the line. I love it. George with a few more laps to get her done. He's underneath one more time. Can he get the power down? The answer is going to be no again. I mean, he's got to rethink that corner, Brad.
Yeah, it's just on exit. He's not driving it all the way out to the wall. He's pinching it down to the bottom because he's trying to give Soucy as much room as he can. But unfortunately, in doing that, he's really cutting a lot of speed on the exit.
2 to go. Soucy coming through the corner, way up the track. George looking for a big run off the corner. Breaks loose on him a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he overshot the corner. Just wanted to try something a little different there.
I'm not sure, but he's going to need a big corner here. He's got a good one, but he's loose. He's going to take that looseness down the track. Soucy, 1 to go here for the championship. Down into 1. Through 2. Looking solid here. George battling back here. We got 1 more corner down into 3. The 81 of Soucy down through 4, across the start-finish line, and George losing it at the line. But Joshua Soucy going to be your series championship here in the Championship Racing League. Unbelievable. Soucy did a great job here tonight. He gets to win. He wins a championship, and he deserved it, Brad. We've seen him all year be, usually the best car out here.
Yeah, just dominant. He did that tonight as well. Give a tip of the cap, though, to Matthew George. George gave him a handful, did everything he could, but get by him. Is right there. You see the 35 of Westerfield come up, give him a little congratulatory bump there, if you will.
Yeah, a little friendly bump. Westerfield will finish in 3rd place tonight. McCann will grab 4th. And then it's Hedrick, Dublé, Johnson, Stutzman, and Wallace rounding out the field. But Joshua Soucy, championship winner. I mean, the 81. Nice looking machine out there. He's going to do a little celebrating here as he goes nose to nose with George. And I'm not sure what the little teammate burnouts here or something, but very interesting.
Yeah, those guys put on a show all night. Kind of fitting that they're going to be right there at the start finish line, burning it down because both of them really had a great run. Probably a lot of hard work between both those drivers here tonight.
All right, let's take a short commercial break. We'll come back. We'll interview our top 3, and of course, Soucy, our champion. Welcome back to Phoenix. Soucy's still out celebrating. You're going to pull out and do a Polish victory lap. And you look back on this series, Brad, and just some of the memories of Soucy out here. He's just a very, very good race car driver. He really has right now. Let's get a word in with our 3rd place finisher. That's going to be Jim Westerfield in the 35. Congrats on a 3rd place finish. I don't even know if I can say that in this championship battle, but you won last week, got yourself in position. We're awfully close here tonight. So really a sincere congratulations on the finish here tonight, Jim. You really did, Jim, and we love what you made. You were showing us some of that aggression that's necessary to get out here and try and be a champion. But let's go a little bit further back in the race and just say during that first run, what were you thinking about what you had to do? I mean, you started back in sixth place. You're trying to position yourself for that caution, I would imagine. And obviously, I got to think you were pretty happy at where you ended up in third place, starting right behind Soucy on the restart. Absolutely. Well, it's been a long season, like you said, and it comes to a close now. You really showed yourself extremely well at the end of this season. What are the plans going forward, Jim? Yeah, absolutely. It is that time of year, Thanksgiving right around the corner, and then Christmas. So please enjoy that. Enjoy that break with your family. And it's going to taste a little sweeter being in our final four here and having a win last week and come in here tonight and grab a solid third place. So congratulations, Jim, on a great season, a great race, and a great league and all that stuff. So big congratulations, man. Anybody you want to thank, now's the time. All right, Brad, that's the 35. Jim Westerfield, third place finisher here tonight. He'll come home second in the championship. I got the 81 Joshua Soucy champion here, not only at Phoenix, but our championship winner. Congratulations on winning that title, the Elite Championship Series champion. Well, it was a grind. I mean, we look across your season, not quite the same grind. I mean, 10 wins, a big season, but you come in tonight, and you've had some more and more competition as the season winded down here. You got George all over you, who've trying to steal the race win, and you got to consider how much jeopardy you're putting your car in. But you got Jim Westerfield, who worked up to that restart to start third, and now he's got you under a little heat as well. Well, talk a little bit about this track, Phoenix. I mean, we are back here in March. You started on the pole, you won the race. There's only been a couple other times you were able to do such a feat. You did it at Pocono, you did it at New Hampshire, and you did it at Texas. But this marks two times in a row here at Phoenix. I mean, you must enjoy this place. Well, we really enjoyed watching you this season. Susie, a top notch driver out here, a great champion representative of this league, ECR. And we couldn't be happier for you. I'm sure they couldn't be happier for you. We're going to toss it over to you, Josh. Anybody you want to thank? Heck, anything you want to say, the floor is yours. All right, Brad. That's Joshua Soucy, our champ. You know, a humble champ, a thankful champ, and really just an all round classy, great racer here. Yeah, man, he brought us home. I mean, you know, he was put on a great show here tonight, and he put on a great show all season long. And Elite Championship Racing, some of the classiest guys that we deal with. Love them all. Loved broadcasting it all. Loved all of our friends. Made a new Lions fan friend in the Princess over there today, so that was big. And I enjoyed that. But oh, to be nice to us Lions fans. One day, it'll be so sweet, Brad. That's the thing about victory. And that goes for anybody in this race or these championships who didn't win. It only makes it sweeter when you do. Keep at it. You'll get one. And when you do, it just tastes so, so good. But right now. That's going to wrap up the season here with Elite Championship Racing. I'm sure we'll be back next season at some point. Probably start somewhere in February. But come check us out over on Wind Tunnel TV. We're doing other broadcasts all the time, and we love your support. So thank you so much. And until next time, that's going to wrap it up from Phoenix, and we'll see you right here next time on Wind Tunnel TV.